Hello, and welcome to Coach Talk, the show more interested in ideas and philosophy than facts and history. My guest this week is Edward. He's a former player and the current head coach of Geekay Esports in the Arabian League. We talked about his transition from player to coach, the shortcomings of coaching in Europe, and what the West needs to do to catch up with Korea and China. As a player, Edward was on Moscow 5, who are widely considered to be the best team in the world, regularly beating teams from the East. And as a coach, his team has just come off an incredible EMEA Masters run, reverse sweeping KC and making it to the semi-finals against much larger teams. He's been involved in top-level European League of Legends since Season 2 and has a fascinating perspective on the game and on coaching. This episode is once again brought to you by Coachify.gg. So for those that don't know, Coachify is a coaching platform that, alongside payments, scheduling and practical things, makes tools for coaches. You can set up live VOD reviews, anchor your messages to specific timestamps in videos for future use, and even set up the auto-tracking of goals with the Riot API. While I was working, even in the LEC, I was just using a pen and paper, so I understand that learning a new set of tools can be daunting. But with coaching as competitive as it's becoming, anything we can do to set ourselves apart is a fantastic opportunity. And now is as good a time as any to learn something new and add it to what you offer to make things as clear as possible for players. So if you're interested in checking out Coachify.gg, you can do so with the link below. They have a bunch of free options, which I suggest you check out first, although there are extra tools more catered to teams behind a paywall. If you do decide to look into Coachify, please drop me a message on Twitter or on Discord and let me know your feedback, as we're working together to try and create the best possible tools for coaches. Lastly, if you enjoy this episode, please like, share and subscribe. And if you're interested in exploring mentoring or any of the other things that I do to support coaches in the scene, you can follow me on Twitter, where you'll find all the other links that you'll need. And now, without further ado, so Edward, what is coaching?
Okay, I think coaching you can explain in million ways, and all of them will be correct, depending on the sphere you work, like on the area you work. You can be individual coach, can be esports coach, can be sport coach, can be whatever it is, like chess coach, anything. I can explain what is coaching for me in the teams I'm working. It's a few steps. First step is always, when I join the team, it's study the team, study individuals, study who I'm working with, finding their weaknesses and strengths, what they're good at and what they're bad at. And after, it takes usually like maybe up to 2 weeks to somewhat have an idea who I'm working with, both outside and inside the game. And after this, I just try to develop strengths and mainly work on them, and either bandage the weaknesses, or if I can see, sometimes you see the guy can't fix this weakness, like no matter what, like in short time, like it's have to do something with personality, and he grew up like 20 years like this, and there's no way he's gonna change, right? In a split or something. So you try to make him aware of this, and this is the best thing you can do, I think. It's like, I call it a bandage, and just work on strengths. I mean, this is mainly my philosophy. I just study team. So coaching, I coach myself first to study the team, and then I start coaching the players itself.
And how do you go about actually studying the team in practice? Because sometimes it's harder to really pinpoint strengths and weaknesses than we'd like to think.
I think this is my natural strengths as a coach. In terms of like in overall League of Legends player as well, when I was before, I I feel that I can see things that other people don't see, and for me it feels so easy. Sometimes I just watch the game with my players. They're all like 1.5 KLP challenger or whatever it is, or like I talk to some LEC coaches. I see something for me is like 1+1. For them, it's like a big muff sequence or whatever it is, and I think this is something I have. I'm not sure when did I actually get this. I mean, throughout my career, obviously, but I don't know where it actually clicked. But I have this thing, and yeah, I just see things people don't see, and I can. The thing is as well, what I think my good strength is as well. for example, you know as well, you've been coach. There's sometimes you play scrims and there's things in scrims that clearly don't work. Like your player can't play this champion. He's going 0-15. He's complaining, I'm not gonna play this champion ever. Blah blah blah. But for some reason I can see this is gonna work no matter what in an official game. Like this is, for example, I had situation with one of the players, Hunt, when I was coaching in Arabian League first split. We were trying to lay in scrims, and every scrim was like 15 deaths, and he was complaining, this champ is shit, I'm not gonna play. I just keep practicing, I just force the practice, because I think best way to learn the champion, just pick no matter what, pick and just play. Like you will learn eventually if you have the right environment and the right coaching stuff. And we played like maybe 10 games in total, 150 deaths plus on champion, 0 wins. Then we go playoff games. It was right before playoffs. And we go playoff games. We play 3 game Talia, 3 wins, and he was like smurfing every game. So this is kind of things I have. I think I developed most in Moscow 5 Gambit, because we were not the scrim team at all. We would just run it down in scrims a lot. We would just have bad results, but we would still see, okay, this is good no matter what. Like we're just not playing good. We're just doing these mistakes, and in official we don't really do them. And yeah, I can separate good and bad. Sometimes we do something very good in scrims, but I know this is not gonna work. Like there is no way we will have these scenarios in the games, or there is no way like this is gonna happen ever. And I think I'm very good at separating this. Obviously not always, but I have this as a strength.
Yeah, I think it's something that a lot of people, myself included, struggle with. So do you have any tips as how you work out when, because sometimes they're playing a champion and they're going 0-15 and we shouldn't play it in competitive, but sometimes we should. So do you have tips as to how you can work out when it's a case where we should still play it?
I think it's a combination of many things, but I think main is the feelings I get when I watch. Obviously, first of all, it's like, okay, you see a lot of people play it, or maybe not a lot of people play it. You see how they actually do using the champion. I obviously watch a lot of VODs, and I see what they do, and I think if we can do the same, we can make it work for sure. Like it's a lot of different things, and same time it's also combined with the player. Sometimes you have scenarios where your player, no matter what, not gonna play the champion. Like good example is AD carries and Dravens. Like not a lot of people can play Draven. You know this. It's like unique. People say unique champion, but at this point, I think all the best players almost play them in the world. But yeah, I mean, it's combination of many things. I don't think I have any tips. It's mainly experience I go through. I can't. We're not in that much in the future that I can just Bluetooth my experience to someone else and he can feel the same. So yeah, I think I can't really give any tips on this. It's just work hard, get experience, trust yourself more, and that's it. Because main problem I think 99% of coaches have, they give too much leverage to players in the teams. They let them have last voice. I'm complete opposite of this. And I just trust my decisions as much as I can, and I make sure my players trust me as well. This is also happening at the beginning of the split, the trust things. But yeah, it's can't share this. It's just nothing to share.
And how do you go about getting trust from players?
It's okay. You usually There's a very good book I read. My favorite book all time. I'm not gonna lie. I don't read so many books in general that related to can relate to esports. But I finished psychology university in general, like master's and bachelor's degree. And one of my favorite books ever I read. It's very old book. A lot of people would say like this is old school. This is not how it works right now. Blah blah blah. It's Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's like my favorite book by far. I think I read like 5 times. And this book helps me communicate with people the way that people like to hear. The things they start having empathy to you, and empathy I think is most important thing to have trust. If you don't have empathy, you don't like someone, there's no way you can trust him, even if he's like a faker in League of Legends world, let's say. So I think this is the main thing I do, is just purely communicating with players outside of game, inside of game. Obviously, during the scrims, they will see I have knowledge about the game. Like, this is basics. If I don't have, they won't trust me about the decisions related to game. But I think more important part is the outside of Dawn, that people see that you're not dumb. Like, not about league, but not dumb in general. Like, because I see a lot of people, I mean, especially players. You meet players in esports that they're like, bro, like, if you leave them alone in gaming hours, they will die like in 2 weeks most likely. And this is something they don't see in me. They see, most of the people I work with, they see someone, okay, if I'm the last guy, I need to choose someone to be on island with someone to survive. Like, they can choose me, this kind of guy. And this gives so much trust to, in general, like, to any human, I think.
And I love that thing of empathy. It's like the Never Split the Difference, a book you tweeted about recently as well. And it ties into what you said at the beginning, studying the players as a first step, both inside and outside.
Yeah.
And from there, you can really understand them and build up that relationship.
I just finished my Atomic Habits, but I didn't read the Never Split the Difference. I just finished yesterday Atomic Habits.
Great. What did you think of Atomic Habits?
I think it's a very good book. A lot of things I've read there, like maybe like 80%, I was doing it already, but unintentionally. People, what's the word? Cautious? Like, I wasn't doing cautious, basically. There's a lot of other good things I read. For sure, I will try to implement in my life, and in my, not in only in esports, but in my personal life as well. But it's a very good book for sure. I would suggest anyone who never read this to read if they're trying to get rid of bad habits or get good habits, or just work in general with a group of people that need habits. I mean, obviously, all we do in real life is like small habits. We're not aware of it.
And how did you approach transitioning from a player to a coach? Is that when did you do the psychology? Was it after being a player? Was it before the whole thing? What was the timing?
This took a while. This was like nightmare for me. I think it's okay. How it happened? I will go back 10 years. Okay. First time it was 2015 when I couldn't be in LEC anymore because of this work visa thing, and I didn't finish university yet. And in Germany, to get work visa is like completely impossible to esports because it was not a thing back then. And I was still studying in university, and I only choice I had basically to play in LCL. Like, this is the first time I went to LCL, and my team was Zanzara and like 3 other Russian players, like no one knows. They never went outside of Russia, Russian league. And my coach was Sharks. Sharks, maybe you know. And when I joined this team, it was clear like they have no idea what are they doing, like in league. Even I was coaching when I was playing. I had to coach whole my team, players to play, and I was coaching my coach how to coach, like the way I could see it. Even though it was like I was very raw as well in this way. Like I was mainly coaching him like league things, not how to treat people. And this is the first time I met like this double. After this, I always was and coach and player in the same time in my teams, because in LCL also you never have any coaches really. Sharks was only guy who later on ended up joining G2, and then he went to Rogue, ended up winning EMEA and went to America. But outside of him, I don't think there's anyone who was really striving to be like actually a good coach, who was actually learning and stuff. They were just all NPC kind of coaches. And I end up, if I wanted to win, I end up doing all these things, like being an uncoach and player, and it was hurting me as a player, obviously, but I still, by this, I think this is the only way I could win. And this is where I first start actually seeing myself as a coach. I really liked making sure that my players improve, my teammates, and I was very happy to see them doing better. Obviously, because we would win games, and my AD carry would just do better. I wouldn't tilt watching him play. But this was the thing. Basically, yeah, this was the first time I actually see myself as a coach. But I was not thinking to become a coach, but I was coaching already, like basically. And first time I end up going to coach, it was not even planned. It was after 2018 Worlds. I was in LCL Gambit, Russian team. We didn't have good success, and I end up getting kicked from the team, even though I think the only person who was like the team was working, it was basically me. They kicked me. They end up losing everything afterwards. And I was sitting there all off season, and I ended up joining Rogue in LEC as assistant coach. This was like my first experience, and when I was there, I still could. It was not like my decision to become coach. I just didn't have very good options, and that was just the best thing I could do. I was just okay. I will take it and see how it goes. And I couldn't really, in my head, see myself as a coach. I still wanted to play. When I was watching my players to play, I was like, oh my god, I can do so much better. Like this feeling, like always, like never stops. Just put me in, I will win this game, blah blah blah. And this was like stopping me to be actually improving as a coach. And I think I had this still in Rogue a lot. And after this, I went back to play in Unicorns of Love. I went to Worlds again at the time, 2019. And next time, I actually intentionally already was thinking to become a coach. It was in Furia, 2021, I think. I still had these feelings a little bit, but because I told myself I want to become a coach, blah blah, blah, this made me at least not want to play. Like I wouldn't force this in my head, etc. 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 So, but even though my first experience as head coach was very tough, I still had my thoughts in my head in Furia. And first time actually I'd never had this. It was in 2023 in Rod. First time I didn't have this feeling that I want to play, blah blah, all this stuff. And first time I could see myself actually improving so much as a coach and doing good things to the team. And I think this was the first year I actually become not coach player, but just coach. It was like always fighting in my head, this like player, coach, the demon and angel, or how do you say it in English? It was, yeah, I was losing my mind at some point, not gonna lie.
Why do you think that experience was different and you were finally able to really commit to coaching?
I think in combination of many things. Obviously, I got older myself, and I have family right now. I have wife. Don't have kids yet, but in upcoming future. But I have like cat and dog. Need to take care of. In the same time, the older you get, it's very hard to find a team as a player in esports. And it's not an ego thing, but I don't see myself playing like in Division 2, like ERLs, for example. Even in Division 1, I feel like it's not, what should I do, you know? I should have, my ego says that I need to have a chance to participate in MSI and Worlds, and I need to be in these regions. And it was very tough to get into good teams in these regions. And this was like maybe the biggest sign for me to just stop as a player. And in the same time, I was also enjoying coaching, and this was just turning point for me. Okay, I was say, I can't achieve as much here anymore as a player, but I can do so much more, or I can do the same as coach, or even more, if I turn right now and commit on this like 100% or like all my time on it. And this was the turning point.
And so in terms of, you said your coaching progressed and you got much better as a coach. How do you think you were able to do that? Is it the books? Is it reflecting? Is it a combination of loads of things?
I think it's mainly the fact that a lot of my brain was still thinking as a player before, and I couldn't see as much the big picture, maybe. And if part of your brain still saying you can play better than this, this was like a lot of time my thoughts, instead of okay, I can help like this, like the other things. And I was thinking when I was turned more only thinking as a coach, I was only focusing how to help my players, like how can make them better every day in any way. And when I start have this mentality all the time, it just helped. By default, I just become better as a coach. And every time I would do mistakes, I would improve. If I would do good thing, I would just remember this. And it also experience. It's coach experience. Over time, I just got so much better at this. And I would use also all the experience I had before when I was a player as well, because I never really had any like league coach, but I had, I think, one of the best esports coaches in the world, not even in League of Legends, like in esports. It's Groove. Maybe you know him. He's right now in CS2 in Cloud9. He was our manager, like a manager coach, like in real life coach for, I think, 6 years or something, and I think he's like one of the smartest guys I ever met in esports. And I copied a lot of things he was doing, or like even improved it because many years passed. And yeah, this experience combined with my League of Legends experience and combined with the work I'm doing right now with the young people just made me improve over time.
And what were the things that Groove did that you thought were so good?
Oh, this is tough one. I don't think I can really answer this just because it's too much to think about it. It's just, it's mainly when you meet some certain situation in the team and you're like, okay, what would Groove do this at this point, And then I would just try to think as him. Sometimes I would just message him and explain to him because we're still connected. I count him as my esports dad because when first time I moved out, when first time I had tournament, I was still 17 years old, and the tournament was in Ukraine, in Kiev. IEM Kiev, and I couldn't leave Russia by myself. I need someone to be like sign a paper basically that he will take care of me outside of Russia, and he was my person to take care of me. So, and then after this, we always had this dad son relationship. He's right now I think 40 years old already, but yeah, I can't say specifics, and I don't think I even want to say this, but there's definitely a lot of things. The way he treat people, I think I got so much. Like, I don't know. I don't want to answer this question, but
Yeah, that's okay. So, what I was going to ask is, let me just get my notes back. You've been involved in the top level of League of Legends for a really, really long time. How do you think our approach to the game has changed and our approach to practice? Not how we play, because that will be, endless, but how we approach practicing.
Honestly, I don't think it changed too much. I think it changed only in few organizations. I mean, yeah, I think in few organizations, and I can't be sure because I haven't been in LEC for many years. But even in LEC by this day, most of the teams still give full control to players, which is, I think, not the best thing to do. Sometimes you can have a player that is you just can see that he's a leader. Like you want to give him some more leverage and stuff like this to have more decisions. But 99% of the time it's not the case. It's like it's unicorns kind of players. I think maybe one of the players I can name, and I think in some time why we have so much success in EMEA, it was El Ramir. I think this guy is very good leader inside and outside. He's someone who any LEC team will have like so much success, so much more success, unless it's like already like a G2, for example, where they have well-oiled machine already. Unless you have some players like this, there is no need to give so much leverage to players. And how was it before? Before was no players, no coaches, and everything was based by players' decisions. And I think by this day it's kind of still same. I think it's main reason why esports why West don't really have good teams, and G2 is opposite. I think they have so much trust. Like they have this hierarchy, like coaches, managers, they're above players. Like anything related, if your manager comes and Roma comes and tells you, we have to do this. Like we need to do this. This is gonna help us. In my head, I don't see players like think, oh fuck off, bro. Like I'm not gonna do this. Like in other teams, I can see this easily, and this stops them from being a good team. How is it in LCK and China? I'm pretty sure in Korea and China, it's never like this. Like best teams always have this hierarchy. Coaches made decisions. Like you have to do it. You have to try to do it. Maybe it's not gonna work, but they all try. They all do it. I think this is one of the reasons why the LCK and Chinese teams usually like better. It's very rare that we win anything. MSI, I think 2019 was the thing, right? When G2 won. I think this is the biggest difference. And even when I was tryouting before I joined GK, I was tryouting for LEC and LCS teams. Like I think I did like 5 tryouts, and I think 4 out of 5 teams that I was trying out, they would just do my tryout and then go ask the players like what they think. Like how for me this was like I was fucking shocked. I swear to God. Why do you care what your players think? Like if you think I'm good fit as a coach, just take me. I will make it work. Like if players need to decide who is gonna be your coach, like it's fucking doomed already. For me, at least this is how I see it. And I think this is the difference maker, biggest difference maker in Europe and maybe NA as well.
Do you think that's something that we can change as coaches, or does it have to come from higher in the organization? I mean, when you're on a team, you can use the stuff from How to Win Friends and Influence People. You can build up that ability to control the team. But as a whole region, is it something that we can fix as coaches?
I think definitely yes. I think this is how coaches can, if you put like 10 good coaches who can control the team, like know what you have to do in certain points, like have this leverage to do whatever they need to do. For example, a good example for me is Striker, like BDS coach. I think he's kind of he's perfect. He's like one of the, like, not perfect, but I don't like this word, one of the best coaches Europe have, just because he have this trust, he have the organization behind him, and I'm happy to see this. Like if I was be in organization, I would like to be in BDS kind of organization, for example. If I would be in LEC, that there's an org, they hire coach, they trust coach to do these things. There's close connection between coach and manager. They both decide on important things, and players just need to listen and do what they need to do, and not the opposite. Like what happens, like for example in other teams. Yeah, I think this can change a lot, but it shouldn't only come from coach. It should come from, first of all, from organization. They should have this standard, and when they hire, like let's say it's off season, they don't have players, they don't have coaches. They need to start from coaching stuff, not from the players. Like a lot of times, people say, "Oh, we need to get the best players, or it's not gonna work." I don't know how many years this has happened already. You build super team, they're complete shit together, never gonna work, and then you end up hiring some clown coach just to try to make it work. At your last budget, like I don't know, 2K a month, whatever it is in LEC, which is like funny number at this point. Yeah, I mean, they should just reverse the approach right now. And every successful team was always the way I explain it, and it's very rare that super team end up working. Very, very rare. Sometimes you just build a team and they just click randomly, right? But yeah, I think it's have to come from organizations. They need to understand this. Mainly management. I think a lot of managers also in LEC, LCS, they're not the smartest. They only think about players usually. So yeah, it would be nice to educate these people somehow.
Why do you think we're in this situation when it's all such a mess, and why do coaches let players just dictate what happens?
I think it also comes a lot to coach personalities. You don't really have so much strong personalities. Not because they don't want to be, they just can't. Especially, at least this my POV. I think a lot of people who grow up in Europe, they're very soft people, in my opinion. A lot of them. I've been working in LEC, LCS many years in Germany. I've been living in Germany. I went to France. I think I've visited almost every country in Europe. Talked to so many people. In general, I think Europe people are very soft. It's very hard to find someone who have this. I forgot the word. Translate. Do you say kernel? Kernel?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
in the army.
Yeah, like in tree, like this strong kernel. A lot of people don't have this. Not because they, as I said, don't want to, just because they grow up like this. Like they, for example, in my family, I, it was tough, you know. Not because my parents are like aggressive or whatever. No, they were strict. There was like rules in my house. I had to follow these rules. If I don't follow, I get fucked. Like for example, not like they're gonna fucking beat me up to the death or something, but I was scared to do some things. For example, when I was young, and I think this is correct. Like I have a lot of discipline, and I end up having a strong kernel, like strong position in my life. That helps me also was helping me as a player because I had this strong identity. I was never like judging my decisions when I was playing. If I need to do something in game, I would just, if I think this is good, I would just do it. I wouldn't question myself. Oh, guys, should I do this? Blah blah blah. I hear this so much I watch so much POVs from players when I do tryouts, whatever it is. So much players like this. When I hear this, I don't want to work with this player. Like usually, if you want to do something, just do it. You know, just take responsibility and do it. And it comes same to coaches, because a lot of times the coaches right now are either ex-players, at least they're trying to be like, it was Vitality coach, I think, forgot his nickname before, Candy Floss he was, I think. He's now Coach Carter, I think, right?
Yeah.
Kirei trying to be coach. I mean, there's a lot in NA is the same thing. A lot of people, ex-pro players trying to be coach. I think this is a natural thing. I think this is a good thing, because initially you don't have any coaches in the scene because it's young scene, and then ex-players who retired, it's natural to become a coach, like in normal sport. But a lot of them don't really have this, as I said, kernel, and they can't really respond properly to what players want. A lot of times, what I do, my players know in my team, if they don't want to do anything, something I told them to do, or like I want them to do, I don't give a shit if they don't want to do it. I will just they say I don't want. I don't give a fuck. Just do it, you know. And I will help you if you need me to help you. I will help you to do it, but you have to do it. And I feel like in a lot of teams in Europe, if someone say I don't want to do it, it's like okay, just don't do it, like, and then just move on, you know. And I think this is something in general Europe people lack, just having this strong idea. Okay, we have to do this. We just do it, you know. And this is something also Groove was teaching us a lot in M5 Gambit. A lot of times, I just remember myself. I was a crybaby when I was a player. I was 17 years old when I joined M5, and I would just say, I just want this. I'm so hungry. Give me food. And he was like, bro, you can't. He's always telling me, Edward, if you eat right now, you'll feel dizzy. You will sleepy. You're not gonna play good on the stage. Like, and we had like game in like 30 minutes against like I remember this. It was ECC Poland against finals against CLG Europe, Froggen team. And I was so hungry. Like he told me, Edward, if you don't eat right now, your brain will work better, because if human is hungry, like obviously I know this right now. If you're hungry, your brain just works better in general. And I smurfed this best of 3, whatever it was. I played so good, and I was like, okay, I gotta trust him. Like next time, you know. And this kind of things, by this I try to implement in my teams. If I truly believe this is good for my player right now, I will make sure this happens. Rare occasions, like some players who have special attitudes that if you force too much, they will just lose their mind and just go mental. Obviously, I try to avoid this as well. I mean, yeah, but usually this is something I think a lot of European coaches lack. I mean, Western coaches in general, they're too soft, I think, and even for example, Striker, I think he have Arabian background. And Arabic people also have this very strict rules when they grow up. Arabian families in general. I think he's from Algeria, I think. And I can see why, for example, even Arabic players that I'm coaching right now, they're very similar in mindset and the way they think to what I had in my family. And I can see a lot of similarities and why I think in general Arabian players are very good for it. It was second year, I think, EMEA, and so 2 Arabian teams end up being so high in the standings, and a lot of people have interest from LEC to Giu or Boda or other like players, which was never a thing before. Like people think Arabian League as a like world last region or whatever it is, and I think these things that makes players just good. It's same for Korea and China. I think Korean China families are so strict. Like you grow up strict, you grow up disciplined, and this is just for the whole life helps you to succeed. And I think this is something European families in general just lack so much, especially this new generation. When I play League, oh my god, I wanna kill myself in game when I play with them. These people who got born after 2005 or 6, oh my god. I think something is wrong.
Yeah. I think as well, it's another reason why it's such a shame that organizations kind of change their mind so quickly. Because what I've had a lot talking to people on this podcast is people saying kind of the same thing, where they say the biggest mistake I made early on in my career as a coach was that I wasn't firm enough with my opinions and I wasn't strict enough. And people were doing it primarily out of fear, like you're saying, and they don't want to get fired, so they want to make the players happy. And then they get fired anyway. And they gradually realize that if you're going to do this and you're going to try and be the best, you have to just stick by your guns and you have to know where you should flex and where you should remain solid. But then those people, it's like they had their chance, but now they would do it very differently. And now the new people come through, and every time the new person comes in,
that's the same mistake.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, this is one of the things as well. I think even M5 Gambit, we never really had like this best players on their positions. We just had this. I mean, just Russian people in general, they have this thing they grew up. I mean, I'm not fully Russian. I'm Armenian. I'm a bit different, but still, it's USSR country. Like we all have similar things. Like even in Russia, a lot of people speak Russian. Like you have to learn mandatory in school. Yeah, we never had really best players on the team. When I joined M5 Kiev, we went to Kiev, and when Hanover, we went undefeated in first World Championship. IEM. I was silver player. I was silver in solo queue, and diamond was barely plat. We were never like best players on the position. I was scared to play ranked game, for example. Like my mentality was something. It's like it's fun to see as well. When I was young, 17 years old, I was scared to go solo queue. I was like, okay, maybe I'm not good right now to win the game. Like maybe I will just let my teammates down. And that was every time I went into solo queue, I was making sure I'm full try hard. Like there's no way I will like I was feeling the best to play the game. And right now, all the people just queue up, just run down games on purpose, like troll each other. I think a lot of mentality changed in general. Even in Russia, if you want to say like in USSR countries, still like generation changes and it goes to shit, I would say, slowly always, because so much more technology, so much more information can get outside, and people try to be on the like real life meta or whatever you call it. But yeah, I think people just so shameless right now in general, and this is also holds them back a lot. No pride, I would say, no pride.
And how important do you think solo queue is now that you're coaching? So it's something that you guys didn't need to be the best, but do you see it as something that's crucial for your players as long as they approach it in the right attitude?
Oh, for sure. Like even though it was not the main thing when we won our first tournaments, but after we won these tournaments, I still remember this day. I was like, before I was so scared to play, but after we won IEM Hanover, 1 month later I was like 3K LP. Like I was basically rank 1 on US. I just got away this fear that I am maybe not good enough to play solo queue, that I will let my teammates down. This just disappeared, and I just started playing solo queue, like spamming a lot and improving. And in general, like back then, solo queue was like so much more healthier, I think, for your mental. And yeah, I think it's very important. Right now, maybe it's not as important because you have like the culture of practice improved so much. Like you do so much 1v1s, 2v2s. Like you have scrims are somewhat more, how to say it, they're more quality, I would say, because before we had no coach. We just go into lobby, pick whatever we want, and then just try to make it work. And then we would just discuss by the players between each other. And now at least that's how I do it. Like I have always planned in going into scrim. Like we will practice this, and we will try to work on this, like some points, and we just try to improve on certain things. And at least players always see what they're doing and why they're doing things, which makes quality of practice a lot better. And obviously 1v1s, 2v2s, like VOD reviews, individual work, all this stuff, you can do so much that if you play like, let's say 3-5 solo queue a day, it's more than enough. Like you don't need to play like 15, 20 games, I think. Unless, I mean, there's obviously players who like to play so much. They feel like they need to feel good. I don't have anything against it. I think I was kind of like this player as well. If I like last time I was playing competitive, I was in Team Spirit when before this war started. I was in Team Spirit. We played only 2 weeks and then LCL got closed. It was my last time I wanted to be a player and then full switch to coach before Rad. And I was 27 or 28 and I was still playing 25 games a day. I know I need this. Like I played 25 games a day and then in 1 month I got 1.2 KLP and I was feeling good. I need my LP to feel good, like to feel confident, and I'm fine with this as well.
Bringing it back to what you said at the beginning with studying your players, are there players you've had that think they don't need solo queue and you think they do, or the other way around? They play
Yeah,
25 games and you actually are trying to get them to realize they need to rest more? Or?
yeah, this is for sure. I think there's a lot of times in. This is one of the reasons why I always make sure I'm in gaming house because most important thing when you study your players and personalities to see body language, to see the eyes of the human I work with. Because if I do online, players are so bullshit. Like they would just tell you something, they would just want you to fuck off. But if I see him in real life, there is no way. If I see his body language, he tell me something. There is no way I believe into this. Like this is so important for me. I I'm very good at body language and understanding what they actually think, the eye, what they do, and stuff like this. So obviously over time I also see how much they need solo queue, how much they like. For example, Leo in my team GK, he don't need to play so much solo queue. It's good for him to play solo queue like 3-5 games a day, but he gets so much better when he plays 2v2 with Decap and he comes to me, we do reviews, we download the replay from the website and we just watch together how other people do. This makes him improve better, like more. It's just this how it is. Like I've have so many examples in Dota scene as well. I'm very close to some Dota teams in around the world. So many players who don't need to play so much games to feel confident and do the things they need to do in game. And yeah, you just see this over time when you work with the team.
Do you think that's I'm trying to think of how to phrase it. Do you think that's something that's a shame that we have less gaming houses now, like since COVID? Because especially as the LEC is still all in person, but now you're getting players or coaches who don't have that much experience of being in person suddenly moving to the LEC.
Well, I'm honestly maybe it's gonna sound funny or something. I'm not kind of guy who believes too much in COVID. Like it's for me, COVID is just normal flu. Like people dying from flu even more than from COVID. If you check statistically, I think I think it's not really related to COVID. It's a lot more to the esports in league in general loses a lot of money. I think teams just realize in general that okay, what is the chance I get this money back after I like spend all of this? And a lot of them just refuse to spend to gaming hours because it's all expensive, right? You need to fly all the players, like give them food, this and that, like PCs. It's all expensive, and for this reason, you also see like teams leave LCS. Like so many teams leave LCS and franchising and stuff like this. It's not because of COVID, right? Just because they don't want to spend the money. I think it's not really related to COVID. It's about if you have money, like spare money to on these things or not, and how much. For example, when I join, every time I do tryouts for team, let's say it's not LEC. Obviously, LEC teams all have gaming houses. When I do tryouts for ERL1 teams, first thing I ask, is this team gonna have a gaming house? Even if they offer me like I don't know, 15K a month, if there's no gaming house, I don't think I can make it work like as much like as I should. And for me, I'd rather cut this money for like 10K and just give me gaming house, and I can make it work, and you can raise me after, like for example. For me, yeah, I think if you want to have a good team, you must have gaming house. It's very rare to have a working team outside of without working together. At least doing a boot camps like 2-3 weeks in advance, like for playoffs or 1 month.
I think it also. I think the biggest thing with gaming house in person, at least in my experience, is that as a coach, I feel like I have so much less impact. So I never liked doing online because I feel
Yeah.
like with this team in person, we could have done differently. We would have won more games or whatever. But because so many teams have moved online now in ERLs, for example, in France is now, I don't know, half-half.
Yeah.
LVP used to be all gaming houses. Now it's moving away from that. It also then means as a scene, we tend towards coaches who are going to have less impact. And then the
Yeah.
same problems that we were already talking about happen.
Yeah, I mean, overall, gaming house, it's not like it's only advantages. Like gaming house, also it's double-edged sword. Like it depends how you control it, right? Sometimes you go into gaming house, then you're one of the players or two players are fucking psycho. Like holy shit. Like you, it's so hard to manage sometimes the players, and they can just destroy the team from inside so easily. And you just want them to, you want to send them home ASAP and leave without them. Like good example is like this. I don't know how much is it like truth or not, but this forgiven example from H2K when people say we just separate him from the room and all this stuff. Even though I worked with Forgiven myself, I think he's, at least when I worked with him, he was so much better. I think we didn't really have so much problems with him. He was, I mean, he was still doing his things, but I think for me personally, if you want to win, you have to do these things. Like if you think this is gonna make your team better, you should do it. And a lot of yeah, players just don't like to hear the reality a lot of times. They just want to see, they like to be soft. You're so good, but you should do this better. And then Forgiven is kind of guy, oh bro, you were doing this wrong, like blah blah, you know. And this approach in real life is even more harsh. If you hear this online, sitting at your computer, drinking your tea, like with your dog or whatever it is, you feel more safe. You like these words don't affect you as much because you're in your comfort zone. But in gaming house, this can, yeah, this can be hard for some players and even coaches as well. Some coaches, when you tell them something in real life, they're like kind of shocked and they're like they don't know how to react properly. In online, they would just read the message, for example, or just if it's like a chat, for example, and they would just take 30 minutes back, think about it, and then give answer. In real life, it's like more right now answer, you know, like do right now. And a lot of people can't manage to work like this, I think.
It's definitely a lot more extreme. I always told organizations that like either it's going to be like much better or it could be potentially much worse.
Yeah.
And so it comes down to that fear again, where a lot of teams are thinking, well, if we're online, then we'll do okay. And if we're in person, we can either do really well or really bad. But that's always the approach that I would go for. I'd much rather be on a team that could come first and could come last than be on a team that's going to come in the middle.
Yeah, I agree.
You mentioned before that you have some friends who are at the top level in Dota. Is there anything that you've taken from what they do? Is there stuff that you've learned from other games? Because there's often a lot that we can draw from whatever other interests. I mean, chess is a classic one, but Dota is, of course, a lot more similar, like the most similar almost to League.
I didn't have chance to get inside the kitchen too much into Dota things, but I, for example, when I was in Team Spirit, like this, I was gaming house for like 2 months or something, and Team Spirit have like best Dota team in the world. Like they won 2 internationals recently, and they were living with us in the same gaming house. We had like this villa, which like had two floors. Then one side you go, it's Dota team, other side League of Legends team. Then like we split the gaming house basically. But in same time I knew, for example, I knew Team Spirit Dota coach for over 12 years. Like when first I joined Moscow 5, I was living with him in the same gaming house, but he was a player. He was a Dota 2 player, a Dota player at the time. So I knew him very, very long time, and their manager as well, and their psychologist as well worked with us a bit. He was also in gaming house. So yeah, there's for sure things I learned, maybe not learned, but took away from them, how they work as a team, all this stuff. And anytime I can also message them and ask like for advice. They're very, very, very smart people working there in this organization. Like I think almost everyone. I think by far one of the best organizations I've ever been in. Oh, in terms of like human brain, and yeah, definitely there's some things which I take out. It's mainly comes to outside of game stuff, which is the rules of the team, the work environment, the communication between players, how they manage it. how they manage stressful situations, all this stuff. Yeah, it's more of this kind of stuff which I took away. But they're kind of same in League of Legends, but you want to learn from the best, right? So they definitely know how to figure out the situations, and yeah, I try to learn from the best, basically, only, mainly.
And how do you personally like to set up that culture and get those rules?
Well, every time I join team, when I go gaming house, first thing we do, we sit down on the couch and I start explaining how our team gonna work, what kind of rules we're gonna have, what kind of punishments, if I'm allowed to punish players, depending on organization, right? This is always starts with this, and then over time I give like 2 weeks to adapt to it, and then I'm not too strict 2 weeks, and then after this I'm start being more certain. But a lot of times they just follow rules. Sometimes, obviously, there's emergency situations. I always willing to adapt. It's not like I'm gonna force my player to wake up at a certain time if he's like feeling sick or having flu, whatever it is. I'm very adaptive. I understand how much rest people need. When we need to cancel screen, when we need to play screen, when we need to extra block, even if players don't want this kind of stuff. Always, how's it? Yeah, we all discuss before we even start working. Like you have to set up everything before it starts. If you start bringing up rules during the work already, they're not gonna listen. Like, oh, you're just making yourself comfort, like all this stuff. Yeah, you basically have to set up rules before you start. Otherwise, it's very hard to implement them during the split, unless they're like super bread and butter. Like they make sense. Everyone knows this need to happen, and you usually have to implement new stuff during the team talks. When we all see the problem and then we discuss and then we say, okay, we need to do this. But usually it takes a lot of energy, a lot of time, which you want to avoid. You usually want to, in team talks, discuss more emotion stuff, like because I think emotions is the most important thing in the team. How people feel about each other, all this stuff, how they feel playing each other, and in-game stuff as well. But in-game stuff is it's way too easy, I think. But building this trust between players, enjoying playing with each other, this kind of stuff, we do team talks all the time and making sure this we just all on the same page. And if you're gonna during this team talks also say, guys, but we need to wake up at this time and not be late on screams during the split, there's something wrong already, right?
Yeah, I think it ties back to this Atomic Habits book as well,
Yeah.
where if we don't come together and proactively talk about what kind of culture we want and set the culture, then it happens anyway. And you're building up those habits, you're building up the behaviors of how we're going to work together before you've even talked about it. So if we already are doing things that aren't up to your standards as the coach, and you've been doing that for 2 weeks, and then you start the conversation, then it's always much harder to unlearn those things that you've learned.
It's like I want to say, like, first of all, initial one, the most basics you do in the first talk, and then after you study the team, okay, you see, okay, this guy is like this, this guy is more leader, this guy is a follow-up guy, he don't talk too much, blah, 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 all this stuff. After 2 weeks to 3 weeks, when you study the team, you also have to do like this extra talk and say, okay, this is gonna be our identity in the team, we're gonna work like this, assign roles basically. To everyone, what they need to do inside, outside, not inside the game, like outside the game. I expect, for example, my player to be the leader. I expect him when things goes to shit. I expect him to raise his voice and say things that will make my team like wake up, or my team to like untilt. Because if you want or not, I'm coach. I will not be on the stage. I will not be in the game in communication with the players. So it's very important to have some leader in the team. And players in general as well, I can say 100 times same thing. Maybe they think it's good, but they don't put too much attention to it, to listen to it and do it. But if one time his teammate says this, his player teammate, they will do it. In general, this is how human in general works. because I'm above him, he feels like I'm just I just want things to happen. But when his teammate tells him the same thing, same sentence legit, he was just maybe this is good. And I make sure in team I always have this guy, and I will just work with him individually a lot, and I will just make sure my messages go through his mouth, and he say things I need him to say for team to improve. I think this is something not a lot of teams have, and you sometimes need to, even if you don't have this kind of guy in the team, player in the team, you need to make sure you build this guy. And a lot of times you have this guy, but he's just sleeping, sleeping mode. He can do it, but he didn't need it in other teams, or he didn't feel like it's important. But a lot of times you have this kind of guy, like vocal guy. Yeah, I think a lot of coaching I do, it's not only what I say, but it's what my players say through me. Like this is, I think, something not a lot of coaches understand, because when I was a player myself, I would not always listen to my coach, but I would always listen, for example, to Alexic. Like whatever he tells me, it was a fucking Bible for me. Like I would just, if he say this need to happen, And every team have this. I think every team have this, but I think barely anyone understand this.
Yeah, I agree. I think sometimes we have it by accident, but what you're saying is we should be active and create it if it doesn't exist. So do you think every team has the potential to have someone who can really be like this and be the leader or captain or however you want to say it?
I think every team have it, but it's the difference in teams who have someone who actually you let's say you build a team and you took a player just for this reason. Obviously, he's a good player, otherwise he wouldn't be. Maybe he's like mechanically not not on the peak level, but he's just playing good, and you know this. And if you put him in the right team, he will shine. Let's say. And if you like, this is like normal situation when you build this and you know this guy will be in your team, and then if you join the team already and you don't really have this guy, you still have to find someone who can do this job. Like maybe not at the best level, but if you don't have this guy, your team won't have good identity. Like identity in the team a lot of times comes to not how you want to play the game, it's just how this guy want to play the game a lot of times. Because in game, if you're gonna have too much opinions anyway, like I want to do this, I want to do this, there should be this guy who's gonna say we're gonna do this right now. And if you don't have this guy, it's usually teams just don't work. Like doesn't matter how many good players you have. Which happen basically, this is super teams. Super teams, people take just good individuals. They take, okay, this guy is best in Israel, this guy is best in Israel, but no one cares if this guy says two words in the game, or they just sit there, 5 people not saying anything, and obviously team can't work. And then there's another team with worse players, but they work as a team. You see, they're actually a team, not just 5 players.
I think that's a really good way to think about it as well as a coach, where it's not that you're kind of teaching everyone the correct way to play the game. You're just teaching everyone so that they're playing the same way. So even if the goal becomes, okay, I mean, we take Vitality as an example because Mac and Pad have been quite open about getting Hylissang for this reason. It's like they're not teaching everyone how to play League of Legends. They're teaching everyone how to play League of Legends like Hylissang. So we're all doing the same thing.
And this is not a bad thing. Like it's it also depends on the season, right? Some season you teach how to play with Hylissang, and then it's like Hylissang meta, like he's gonna shine, the team is gonna be super good. Sometimes game is like more slow paced or whatever it is, and then Hylissang is just feels out of like everything doesn't feel the same. Like he feels like time goes. I have this example, like for example this. I had this story. Liquid, a Russian player in Albus Luna, I think I got told they were doing some tests with psychologists, and they were asking him to count, not with voice, but inside you count just 1 to 10, or just count, And the way he was counting, it was like 3 times faster than the usual time. Okay, and then other people were like very similar to normal timing, and then when he was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then even when he was like counting Zonia's timing, it was like 2.5 seconds, let's say, he was counting to 5 to throw his spell, And I think this is like, I think something like Hylissang have as well. Like he's so fast, like all this stuff. and sometimes your phase of the feeling of the game is not the same how the game actually is played, and this makes him die a lot or do whatever he does and look silly. But yeah, it depends on the team and on the game itself. Like sometimes you just not the right fit for the game.
So, if you were on a team that didn't have an obvious player like this, how would you go about making one? So, it starts again with the studying the players, and maybe you can see some things that they don't. A player might not realize that he has this potential, but how would you actually go about kind of creating one? If someone's listening to this saying that sounds amazing, how can I make that happen?
This is very tough. I'm not gonna lie. I don't have too much experience making this happen. I don't think I ever done it. I mean, I don't have so much experience as a coach in general. Like I already worked. It's my basically third year. In every team, I somewhat had this guy. In a, he was either lower level or higher level of this ability, but usually I think it's very hard to find a team where you don't have this guy. Like I never had this. Never had this. I think it's just maybe I never had a super team. But yeah, I think always you suddenly have this guy who even outside of the game he's just super quiet, but in game he just suddenly just speaks so much and he does the things. It's very hard to see. Like even if you, one time I was trying to do interviews with players and just see who I want to take, and I was taking an interview with 5 players, and one guy was super active. I thought he's gonna be the leader, and other guy was super like not talkative, not talk active and stuff. And I was thinking he's gonna be just a good follow-up player, good second shot caller, whatever it is. But it was opposite. The guy who was like very quiet, he in game he was, I don't know, becoming Hulk. I don't know, like he and the other guy he was more conservative in game, like he was more quiet. So it's very tough. That's why I like to watch POVs as well to hear the communication, what people do in game, because a lot of people in game, outside of game, complete different humans, personalities. So yeah, you need to be very careful when you build rosters. But to your question again, how do I build this person from the scratch? I'm not sure. I think I need to experience this once from zero to hero to be able to answer. I obviously have some ideas, but without having experience, I think it's kind of useless to answer.
Mm. Yeah, and I think a lot of times, even in practice, you're never really going to have someone who's zero. There's going to be multiple people to choose from, or ways that you can enhance what's already there rather than kind of creating it from scratch.
Yep.
How important do you think relationships are within the team? Because something that obviously in Moscow 5 and stuff like that, you guys were famous for, it's like we're working together, we're not friends. And I don't know if it's fair to say, but it feels like, this probably ties into what we were talking about before, but it feels like people now are even more interested in, let's have friends together,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Disgusting.
So what do you think about that?
I think this is like worst approach ever to bring friends to your team. I think when you end up joining team as a player, especially, you have to be so egoistic about yourself. Like you have to be, okay, I will take this guy to the team. I know he's like very good, but maybe I don't like him. But it's always opposite, when even if you don't like someone, you go into the team, suddenly you guys like fine together. Like it's always like this. For example, good example, me and El Ramir. I flamed this guy in solo queue for 5 years, 6 years. He flamed me. Like we always, I tell him Russian, I tell him Turkish dog. He tell me Russian dog. Like we flame each other. Also, we have this Armenian Turkish thing, which is not very healthy. It's like if you compare it, like it's basically Russia Ukraine together, and Armenia Turkey is same. Like so much war happened between each other. And when we go into the team, for me he's my biggest soulmate in the team from players. I what's the word? I don't even. Bro, when I speak English, sometimes I even forget the Russian word of what I want to say.
It's really good.
I real whatever this. I see myself. I see him as myself, like same thinking a lot of times, which makes me happy in a way. And he was kind of guy I wouldn't like a lot. And but I know when I was doing, for example, the WOD and stuff, I know if I need this guy in my team. For example, when we were building the team, I was convinced, guys, management, take this guy no matter what. I don't care if other guy is better mechanically, have better champ pool. I don't give a shit. Just we need this guy. He's gonna be my leader in the team. I know this by fact. And for M5 Gambit, when we were, I think we were friends, but not everyone. For example, I was friends with Alex. Alex was friends with Darian and Genja. Genja only friends with Darian. Darian only friends with Genja. It was like, it was weird. Like Genja, for example, hated me. I hated Genja. I was friends with Diamond initially, and then I hated Diamond. Like it was like roller coaster of emotions a lot of times. But when we go into the game, like we didn't care about this. Like we were all thinking how to win the game, and in game only times when we had like disagreements, it was after people start playing maybe not as good, or we had start having trust issues when for example bad thing happened all over again, like in official games, and then you start thinking, okay, if I do this, he's not gonna do it anymore, and it's all come to trust issues. I don't think it have anything to do with outside of game relationships. You can not like someone, but you still work with him and be in a good team. And sometimes I think it's so much harder to make a team of friends work than a group of people who just want to achieve same goal. It's so much harder to work with friends, just because there's too much emotions involved in the process, and emotions is the biggest enemy, I think, in sport, in esports, which holds you back, because you want to forgive a lot of things. You don't want to say a lot of things to your friends, which you would usually say that need to be said. Especially for, as I said, like for soft people, like European people, like they're very soft. They like to say everything in very polite way, or not even polite. I think the way I speak as well, I think it's polite. It's just straightforward, and it's very hard to be straightforward with friends a lot of times, even though it's kind of opposite. I mean, you can be straightforward with your best friends, but it's not with your friends. I think it's like this. So I think building team with friends, it's not the best idea unless you know there's two friends, but they've always been playing together and they're always a good duo. It's good to take them. Like sometimes these things are fine, but for example, you build a roster and then this player says, "Okay, this is my friend, take him." Like this is not the reasoning you want to rely on.
So how do you go about building a roster? You talked about making sure that you have someone who can be a kind of player leader, be your voice on the team, but how do you actually go about scouting players? Like, what's your preferred method of doing it?
I think first, always you always start with someone who can be your leader. You can only find this by talking to him in Discord, let's say, or whatever it is, because it's hard to meet in real life. Everyone is at home at off season, and then just watching POVs from official games and seeing what he does from and in scrims as well, like more official games, because scrims I don't trust too much. It's in scrims people are different, in official they're different. I usually just watch official games and see what they do, what they say, how they say, at what timings, and this is how I find my leader. Usually I try to do it either on jungle or support role, mainly jungle. I think the best, because I like support to be secondary shot caller, because it usually happens like this, that support player is the one who he started being more proactive on the whole map after they go mid lane, when it map splits to 1-3-1 or whatever it is. So I like to have support or AD carry, usually support, to be a backup shot caller or like backup leader. If something happens to the main one, you have this guy who will support him, and like in like let's say a few minutes in the game, and then the guy will bounce back again. And then other players, I don't care so much like what kind of personality they have. I just expect normal stuff, just good gameplay. Even communication, I don't care if they speak too much or not. These things I can easily teach. what they need to say at what timings, why they need to say, because I think why is most important. What and when is like the easiest one, but hardest one is why they need to say these things. They need to understand, if I say this, this can happen, and this need to happen, blah blah blah. If players don't understand why, they never do what they need to do. And this is something as well I think people don't really understand much when they try to coach. Most important is why. And yeah, top lane, AD, and mid lane is just players who just need to execute, usually, in my opinion. It's good to have mid laners, AD carriers who are very decisive in late game, because obviously they're the ones who do the most damage and they have most resources. This is what I look mainly at when I choose these players, mid top AD. But in early game, mid game, doesn't matter too much. Just good execution players, good mechanics, good brain. That's it.
I love what you were saying there about the most important thing being why. Why are people going to do it? Because we've got so much. Well, it's useful for coaching anyway, but especially in League of Legends, when there's so many variables, you need to understand why you're doing what you're doing, but also it can actually make it simpler, even in a way. So how do you go about kind of getting deep enough to find why you're doing certain things?
I mean, most of the times, it's when it comes to early game, the why usually comes to individuals. You want to point out why you want to do this. It's good for you. Mainly, this is the answer, and then good for you. It's in different ways. This is gonna give you advantage. This is gonna be you're not gonna die here, or you're gonna avoid gank timers from enemy. It depends. Like it's whatever it is. Closer to mid-late game, the why comes to more of team stuff, and this is the hard thing for everyone to understand. This is good for team, even if a lot of times I think good team is not possible if at least two players can sacrifice. Two players always need to sacrifice something to make something happen for a team. Sometimes one, but usually it's 1-2 players, basically, depending on the situation in the game, how much you're ahead or behind or even. And this is the hard one to explain. If you take a one step back here, you can do 2 steps forward, this kind of mentality. And this is the hard thing to teach, because all the players are like, but I'm gonna lose gold here, I can take a tower here, blah blah. But I'm trying to usually teach for players to see the bigger picture, which is very hard for players, I think, because I was playing myself. I know it's very hard. I usually just, my mentality as a player was always, I need to shit on any bot lane, like we need to kill them, how I can base here, this kind of stuff. And a lot of players just think very individual most of the times. And this is also one of the things when I try to find full leader, I'm trying to find someone who don't only think about himself. He always, even if he don't have the proper thinking about this is good for team, but at least he thinks for the team, he thinks this is good for team, but maybe it's not entirely good, or it's not the best way, but I need to know that he thinks globally, not just individually. Because a lot of junglers as well, they just think, I'm like, especially the solo queue players, like who come to competitive newly, or just in general, like these carry jungle players, like, what the fuck, guys, I'm 10 games ahead, how are we losing? And if you have this mentality and this thinking, he can't be leader, right? He's just thinking about how much he's individually ahead and what he's doing by himself. And yeah, what was the question? I forgot already. What was
That's okay. I've forgotten as well, because there was a lot of really useful things in there. So I think
it was about building roster, right?
Why.
Or not? Oh yeah, why? Yeah, why?
Yeah.
And yeah, this why in early game and mid game is very different. Even mid game, late game, all different. And this why question also, you need to answer a lot in your life, because you still live, especially if you live with people in gaming house. There's a lot of why this is happening. Like, how should I react to this? Why should I do this? And this will make other human just feel better and play better and feel more comfortable. All this stuff. living gaming house is just living in a kindergarten. Like basically, you just need to take care of these people who usually just thinks about themselves. He think about their toys and their stuff, and just take care of it. So yeah, I feel like what do we call the people who take care of kids in kindergarten in English? Just teacher?
Teachers normally, yeah.
Yeah, so you're basically like a teacher if you're in gaming house. But sometimes the thing is, well, sometimes you just hire a coach who needs a teacher for the teacher. Like so. But yeah, this is my coaching in my teams. I do so many aspects uh, for the team. I don't have a specific job. I don't have. I'm not thinking. Okay, I will just do just League of Legends coaching. I'm doing whatever I think it needs to be done for make this team successful. Sometimes I just learn new stuff for myself to help other people. I see there is a problem and I have no idea about this problem. Like, but maybe I can ask someone who knows, and I will just try to learn this ASAP and just make it work. I think it's very important to adapt on fly and just do things that need to be done, and don't say to yourself, "Oh, but I don't know this. I'm not gonna do this." Like, you just need to always adapt, get out of your comfort zone, do things you don't want to do. Like this is like basics of esports in general, like any job in general. If you want to succeed, just do whatever you don't want to do and learn stuff you don't want to learn.
Yeah, that's a big reason why I'm doing what I'm doing now and working with coaches and supporting coaches, because so often it's like you're kind of doing 5 jobs, and that's
Yeah,
okay. We need sometimes you need the space to be able to ask people like, okay, I don't know how to approach this situation, but even that is a great attitude to have, because there's a lot of times we have the ego as a coach where we feel like we have to know the answer. But like you're saying there, if someone has a problem that you don't know the answer to, it's like, okay, I don't have to know now, but I'm going to go and find out. I'm going to go and ask people, and I'm going to go and learn, and then we're going to be able to help.
fun thing happened in Rod. It was my first actual year when I was feeling full as a coach. Obviously, I worked in Fury before, but I didn't feel that way. In Rod, I was feeling the full as a coach, and that's the year was really different because we were living in Egypt in Cairo, and we had like Danish players, like in general outside of Egypt players, like outside of our not Arabs, who didn't feel like eating the same food as they in Egypt is because Egypt is very traditional food. They don't have too much, and the food you order in restaurants, like for example Italian food, it's not the same. Like you don't feel good eating it usually. And what ended up happening in the team, I was coaching team in League of Legends. Outside of it, psychologist, their friend. I was cooking for a whole team 2 times a day. I was legit cooking for the whole team in the I was finishing scrims. I go kitchen. I cook for like 7 people to eat, and because I knew it need to be done in this team, or it's not gonna work because players are not feeling comfortable, happy eating the food they have. And I was doing I was doing endless stuff, and it was also giving me joy because I like making people happy in general. And as long as I see they're happy and they're grateful for it. I have no problem doing extra stuff. But yeah, sometimes you even need to be a cook. Sometimes you, I don't know, need to clean fucking toilet because whatever it is, I'm obviously going too much. But sometimes you actually need to do some crazy stuff. Something you never expect yourself to do it when you sign the contract.
The thing for me was always there's no job in esports where you don't have to build IKEA furniture. At some point, you're going to have to build a bed.
Yeah, this happens in every team. Building a chair or table or whatever it is, or a new bed.
Have you worked as a coach with other coaches? I mean, you've talked about talking to psychologists and stuff before, but have you worked with, do you have an assistant coach or other people to help you?
In GK, I mean, in Rada, I had the assistant coach. It was Sharif Presence. I think he was very good assistant coach for me. I still by this day have good connection with him. I think after I end up leaving Rod, he ended up being a head coach in Rod. This last bit, I had a good time working with him. I have very good time working with Bosch right now. I think he's very famous in like coaching scene backstage basically. I think he's unfortunately he can't be in gaming house with us because he's working online. But I'm very happy with him as well. I think he's very good brain. Helps me a lot. And this and from working with coaches before, when I was a player, I think only coach I had. Actually, first coach I somewhat thought, okay, this maybe coach can be useful sometimes. It was Shauns in 2015 in Gambit. I don't know if you know him, the French. He was a pro player before, jungler, and then he's now owner of Aegis in LFL. He's a TFT player right now or something. He's a streamer, but he was a pro player before. Then we hired him as a coach. He was doing some good things, and then next time I had decent experience working with coach. It was Shippy in Unicorns of Love when they bought a slot in LCL. I thought he was doing decent things. I was not always agreeing with him what he was doing, but in general, I think he's a good coach. He builds good structure and good place to work. Outside of this, I never worked with anyone really useful, I think, as a coach. Yeah. I think that's it.
One of the things that I wanted to ask you as a follow-up to something that you said on Summoning Insight, you were saying one of the reasons that you guys, when you were a player, was so good and were able to beat teams from all around the world was you were saying we weren't scared to play. Like we weren't scared to do what we were going to do, regardless of who we're playing against.
Yeah.
Why do you think we struggle so much with that now? Like, why do you think that's not a thing that you can really say about hardly any teams in the West? We seem to play very different depending on who we're playing against.
Okay, I'm actually happy you answered this because I wanted to speak about this, but I forgot to say it. I think, in general, one of the mentalities I always followed in my life, that I was always thinking, I'm the best player in my position and I have best team. I never thought in any team I was playing, even though it was not the best team, I always thought this is my best team and we can win anyone. And having this mentality is very hard to have it. You can have it. Said the word. Forgot. I know the word. Artificial is the word.
Yeah.
You can make this mentality artificial, but it's much better if you have it like natural, this mentality. And this is some mentality we had always in M5 Gambit. We always thought we were the best. We didn't care against who we play. For us, everyone was shit. Like even when we played, we went to season 2 Worlds. I went to interview. I think it was Chavez Gafford. I think I'm sorry if I say his name wrong. He asked me, "What do you think about MedLife?" I asked him, "Who is MedLife?" I asked this because I actually didn't know who is MedLife, and he was like in Azubu 4. They were playing in finals later on, and I didn't care who is MedLife. I know we study their team obviously, but I didn't care who is playing there. And this is something also comes to mentality of people who grow up in Europe and America in general. They learn to think about other people's feelings too much. Think about other people too much. And when you grow up like this, you think about others too much in general. And when you always, even if you're the best team in Europe, you think, oh, but how are we gonna win against this team? But they're so good, blah blah. These things I try to always avoid in my teams. From the scratch, I try to at least artificially make my players believe that they're best and there's no one better than them, even in Europe. At least where I want to, where I'm gonna participate. For example, if I'm in GK, we're participating in EMEA. We're not gonna play LCK teams or whatever it is. So I'm making sure my players think there's no one better than them at their positions. No one. I want them to think that they're the best and they can win anyone. And if you have this mentality, you're already halfway to win the game. I think if you're gonna go into the game thinking, okay, but enemy team is K Corp, there's Kalis, they're gonna go LEC soon, Vladi. My players, I can assure you, every one of my players, when we play K Corp and we reverse sweep them, they think enemy team is shit, and everyone, they not not the players are shit, but enemy team is shit. Okay, and and also when I prepare my team, when I do reviews for enemy team, when I do preparation, the way I give information about this team, I give it in a way that my team thinks, wait, we can win them so easy. You know, this is like combination of things, but how you present information, all this stuff, even their strengths, I present in a way that it's their weakness, and this is something I think was crucial for us as well to win K Corp. And in general, to win, even if you're underdog, to win against good teams, just to have this winner mentality. If you, as I said, if you're ever gonna have this mentality that enemy team is just so good, how are we gonna win? You're already halfway lost. Of course, you can upset if enemy team is having a bad day or you're suddenly having a good game, but especially in best of 5, it's very hard to win if you go with this mentality, bad mentality. And this is, I think, something European teams have in general. Like, they have too much respect and too much thinking about Asian teams, when in reality, they're playing the same champions, they have same items, same stats. You can easily win. I think by this day, I truly believe that if I end up, let's say, coaching LEC team or whatever it is, and we have this right atmosphere, mentality, and the right team to do it, I think we can win Worlds. No problem. Like, European team can easily win Worlds.
Yeah, I think it reminds me of a book that I'm reading at the moment called Psycho-Cybernetics, which is quite an old book, like you were saying, with the How to Win Friends as well. But it's about the idea that your mental image of yourself is kind of very important, and the rest of us kind of follows along. And the idea that believing is just genuinely, provably the first step to being able to do anything. Yep. And it also reminds me, in rugby, we used to have the thing that Southern Hemisphere teams would just always win. I mean, now they pretty much always win, but not quite always, at least. And the first coach who ended up winning the World Cup with the Northern Hemisphere team, Clive Woodward, one of the things that he wanted to change when they were going into the culture was, we're going to stop studying Australia and New Zealand, because we're looking at them being like, oh my God, they're so good at how they do this, and how should we do that so we can get better? So where do you think the balance is with that? Because that's something I hadn't thought about till now, because I do think if you can find a team that's, you know, doing your thing but better, it can be useful to get everyone on the same page and show it being done successfully. But where do you see the balance there of, if you're bringing the downside of bringing VODs to your team and saying, look at how this team executed, this is good, we should do this, but then you're also hurting that self-image and sort of showing them someone who's better?
Gladly, in League of Legends, you can hide nicknames. And I always try to do this. They just see the champions usually, and I just show. I don't show, look guys, Carrier is doing this. I'm saying, look guys, if this team have these resources, they can do this, and this will be result. I try to not attach the good play to the player or to the team. I just try to attach it. This League of Legends, you guys can do this. Like, even when I do individual reviews with players, I hide nicknames. Sometimes they don't even know who's playing this. I just show this, and I'm asking, can you play like this? Like, for example, can you do these things? Or like, I show some shit play from Faker, and I hide nickname, and then I say, can you watch this? Like, who do you think is playing this? And then he's like, it's some shit player. And then I saw it's Faker, and he's like, they're like so confused. And this little things, little tricks helps to switch their mindset sometimes. Because, for example, my mid lane is like, Gio is the biggest Chovy fan. He's like, guys, Chovy is the best player in the world. He's like biggest fanboy. Of course, Chovy is fucking good, right? But if you put Gio into Chovy, I mean, Gio is a very strange person, okay? Even if he's biggest fanboy of Chovy, he's still, I'm not sure if this is gonna be disadvantage for him to play against him, or he's gonna like shit on him because he studied him so well and he knows him very well and he tried to play as good as him or even better. It's different person to person, like most of the times, but it would be disadvantage if you're like too much a fan of someone, like you're like acts to your nerves and stuff like this. But yeah, like in general in game as well, I try to always make sure my players say the champion name, not the player name, and which takes away the personal stuff. Like obviously there's sometimes beef between players, and they're like, kill this guy, like. But yeah, I try to make sure it's just us fighting League of Legends, not us fighting the enemy team, like or like whatever it is.
Yeah, I love that. I love that as an idea. It's something I hadn't considered before. And I think oftentimes the reason that coaches don't do that is coming back to something you said before, where it's kind of too player led, where it's like if I showed someone a clip and didn't tell you who was playing, then maybe the player might disagree. But if I tell you it's Zeus, then you will do the
exactly.
thing.
Exactly.
No,
It's like it even happens with Korean players. For example, this split, I was seeing a lot of, even before TF become this OP stuff on top lane. I see solo queue. I was telling Bong, TF looks so OP. Like go play solo queue. He's like, nah, so shit, blah blah. And then legit 1 week later, they play an LCK. I'm like, Bong. I was like, what is this, Bong? He was like, it's so strong. And I mean, players you just need to find the right approach. After this happened one time, usually I don't let it happen the second time. You always need to give this room to mistake for players. You can't be straight up like super strict with them. After they see this one time, they're like, okay, I should listen to my coach more. Like, and a lot of times we picked up champions that usually we would never pick up. My players would never pick up by themselves, and it's connected to mid lane, top lane, AD carry, like all of them, honestly.
And how do you go about trying to introduce new champions and pick up new champions? Because that's another thing that I think was so crazy this year, if we're comparing the West to the East, is that LEC started before LCK, and the first week everyone kind of agreed on a certain meta, but then LCK started, and suddenly we all did the Korean meta. So how do you go about it? So you have, like you said, each player gets one chance to make that mistake of, making the wrong assessment, but how do you go about it after that?
I mean, it's not one chance. It's like it's player to player different, but usually how I try to make meta, I don't try to make my team play the meta everyone does plays. I think this is like worst thing you can ever do as a coach. Like it's like most rookie mistake as a coach. You should always analyze your team, your players, what my mid laner is good at playing, like what kind of champions, what you see he can be very good if he put time on it, like, and what he like no matter how much he put time, he will be suboptimal on it. These kind of things you just need to see it, and I think I do see it good in general, just by the things they do in game and what they say in game, and you mix their individual stuff with meta stuff, and you finally have some chemistry of champions you play, and you just put it into the team comps you do, or like to adapt to other players in your team, and suddenly you have your own meta. I think it's very crucial. It's very important to have your own understanding of the game, your own identity of the champions, like what you play. It's like a super easy example is Bipo. Like Bipo places like random shit on top lane like every game, and he knows how to play. He introduced the team, guys. If the enemy have this champion, blah, 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 I will play Urgot. And then he was the only guy playing Urgot like initially, for example, or whatever it is, like Singed, or he have always these unique champions. And I always admire these players. If my player come tomorrow and tell me, Edward, I want to play Anivia jungle, and this is why it's gonna work, and this is what I'm gonna do in these situations, I will be happy to pick him Anivia jungle. I don't care, like if it's official game or not. If the whole scene is gonna say Edward is fucking retarded picking Anivia jungle, I don't care. Like this is level of trust you should also give to your players. They should know that I have their back, and I'm never scared to pick any first-time champions in official stage as well. It happens even this split. I usually try to make sure that players are not scared to pick first-time champions, even though if they played before, let's say. Happened in our split display. We played, let's say, how much? 500 games this split with scrims and official games. we played 0 Irelia games in scrims and 1 time official game in Irelia. And my millionaire just 1v9 in Irelia game. Just because I know he can play it and it's good for his identity. And he said it's Irelia game. I said, okay, go for it. I trust you. And then this, I trust you at the end of the sentence, give him so much confidence to play the champion, I think. Yeah, I think these things, you should never follow the global meta. You should study it, but you should not follow. You should study and see why this is working, why this works in their region, why it can work in our region or can't work in our region. Level of the gameplay is very different in every region. In LEC it's one, in ERL ones is different, LFL different, Spain playing completely different pace of the game, LCK different, Chinese fighting every single minion, they want to kill each other. So it's, you just need to see what fits your team the best, and just this is why you play scrims. You experiment and you see what's working, what's not.
I think it's such a good point. Again, coming back to why are they playing what they're playing, and then you can either agree or disagree with the reason, rather than just saying, oh, they're the best team and they're playing this pick, therefore we should play that pick. And the other thing is, meta stands for most effective tactic available. The idea that the most effective tactic for a completely different team is the same as for us, always get a bit suspicious of that.
Yeah.
So I'd like to end with the quick fire questions, which is the same 5 questions that I'm asking everybody, just because I think that we all come from such different experiences. I mean, we've talked about backgrounds and stuff already, but also different career experiences, life experiences and approaches. And I just love having that same questions with very, very different answers. So the first one, who are the coaches or people that you look up to, either now or early on in your career?
Well, the mentality I explained to you before, that I think I'm the best. This mentality also, I follow this mentality in my life. Also when I'm coach, I'm not gonna lie, it's not related to ego or anything. I personally always think I'm the best coach, can possibly be in esports, whatever it is. But there's always people I was looking up to, like looking their interviews. Obviously, I never worked with any LEC coach or LCS coach or whatever it is, and I don't know so much about Korean ones because there's so little content about them, like that I can understand. But only coaches I was like wanted to work with as assistant coach, for example, even assistant coach, because I don't see myself as assistant coach at all. Like I tried one time, for me it was torture, for example. But there's some people I can see myself working as assistant coach because I know I will be able to do the things I'm doing. Maybe it was Peter Dunn, I think. But it's not like I think he's like someone I need to look up to. It's just someone I would be very happy to work with together. And outside of this, I think I truly believe I'm kind of like a creature that there's no coaches like me in League of Legends, especially, and like I think hopefully one day I will be able to show it on bigger stage. But yeah, I don't have really anyone to highlight, but I like Peter Dunn.
And what's the biggest hardship that you've experienced in your career?
Hardship, I think this is something we discussed today. It was my transition from player to coach. Can I say this as a hardship? I think this was the biggest thing. It was very tough for me to change my mentality, change my view, give up a player career. It's very tough. I think especially if you had ever a successful career, you don't want to give up. Like you want to keep trying. I want to bounce back, like this stuff. This was very tough for me to give up, but I'm happy I was able to do it and transition myself to coach. And also, I think I don't like off seasons. I hate off seasons so much, especially when you need to kick someone or like change someone. I'm not a big fan of this, even though I'm super. My wife tell me I have a wooden heart. I'm emotionless a lot of times, and I'm very like realistic person in general. But I don't like to saying bye to people, especially with the ones I lived like half year or 1 year in the gaming house. I know them very well. I count them as a comrades, not friends. Friends is a very powerful word for me, but I count them someone I really even either admire or like, or I would like to spend with them more time later on. Hard to say bye, but yeah, this is something I don't like. But I think it's normal for everyone, I think.
And what's the top highlight of your career?
Top highlight. Okay, I think this is something as a coach or like in general.
In general, we'll say.
Okay, I would say one for player and one for coach.
Perfect.
For player, it was this highlight in IEM Katowice 2013 when we played so horrible. It was Gambit there. First tournament we had as a Gambit, I think. We played group stage with Tim Curse, Azubu Blaze, I think, and Polish team MIM, I think it was. I don't remember exactly what was their name. A Polish team basically. It was like a national Polish team. They played afterwards in LEC, I think. And we played group so bad. We played 1-2. We lost to NA team, which for us was like embarrassing. We always like counted NA as like super shit region at the time. Like for us, it was NA was like embarrassing to lose. We lost to Curse, I think. We lost to Azubules in the group. And it was only three best of ones, and 2 teams go out. And we last game, it was our last game in the group, and we were all Azubules was 3-0, and we were 0-2, and other teams are 1-2 and 1-1, and we need to win the Polish team at certain amount of time. If we extend the time, we'll be third or fourth, and if we win faster than this, we will be second, and we can go to the next to the bracket stage. I remember this was like so intense. If we play game for I think 30 seconds more, we're out of the tournament. We speedrun the game somehow. I don't know how we won this game like so fast. And then the next day we did like this magic talks. How we discussed how we're gonna win the bracket. We had like I think 1 day off or like no day off even. I don't remember exactly. And we need to play best of 3 against Azubu Blaze, or Azubu Frost, and into best of 3 into Azubu Blaze in finals. 2 best Korean teams at the time. And we did some talks. We discussed meta, what we're gonna do. We changed completely everything we were practicing, and then we 2-0, 2-0 Azubu Blaze, Azubu Frost, and one of the games they even surrendered against us. It was like best feeling of my life. It was so good. I think this is a player my biggest highlight. And as a coach, I think it was actually very recent. The reverse sweep against K-Corp, I think it is my biggest success this EMEA Masters run so far as a coach. Because I never really had anything successful so far outside of this EMEA run. I think this reverse sweep against K-Corp was very emotional and I enjoyed so much. I think I cried like maybe 5 times so happy I was. It was a very nice feeling.
And what are the 3 non-negotiable behaviors that you and people around you need to buy into?
I think it's being on time. For me, being on time means if you have to be 1 p.m. there, you have to be there 12:55 latest. For me, this is something I've never seen my teammates being late unless they're sick or something. Like every time we're in lobby, in scrim, for example, whatever it is, 10 minutes, 5 minutes before the enemy team comes, and there's one enemy coach there, and we're typing ready, putting some pressure on any team. I think this is something I always make sure my team is never late. They're always on time. Other than this, it's what non-negotiable. It's tough one. A lot of things are so flexible. I don't take the fact that someone can give up. It doesn't have to be give up the game. It have to be give up the split, or he don't believe the team can work. For me, it's like I kind of put like a guy on blacklist. Like I don't see working with someone. If he does it one time, he will do it in another team. I try to sometimes, but you need to also understand. Sometimes they do it because they just have these feelings and they don't know how to express it outside of just saying I don't want to try anymore. Sometimes they just don't know what else to do, and they just say this, I want to give up, But if you tell them you can do this, 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 and they're like, oh, actually this can work, right? But if this doesn't work as well, then I just blacklist the guy completely from my life, and I will just make sure I will never work with him again. And what else? Think of the third one. I'm not sure if I can find third one. But I would say something that I really think it's important to have a team, and I always push this to happen. That is very rare to think. It's about players. As I said before, like sometimes when you as a coach say something, it doesn't really get to your player brain. But if the other player says it's suddenly clicks or it makes more sense, I always make sure my players put extra time to work with each other and help each other to understand the game the same way or better. This is something we also had in M5 Gambit. We never had coach, but what we always did, we always come together to one PC, even if we wanted to kill each other like 5 minutes ago because of something happening in game. But we go there together and we make sure we're on the same page. Like we're doing the same thing, and I think this is something 99% of teams lack. They finish scrims. One guy goes to play solo queue, other guy goes to eat. No one interacting with each other again until next scrim or whatever it is. And this is something I always push to happen in the teams. I always say, just you guys don't need to wait for some miracle to happen. If you want something to change in other guy, just come to him and say whatever, like my support. We need to do this, so we can play better together. How can we do it? And then suddenly you have a conversation. Suddenly, like 5 minutes later, you thought it's unfixable, but it's fixed already. And 99% of people just sit there and wait for something to happen, and suddenly it's gonna work. They don't want to do anything by themselves, and this is something I always make sure happens in my teams. Yeah, because they need to play together. If I can be in game and shot call for them, it's easy, right? But they need to understand game as much as possible in the same way in game. So I push this thing as much as possible.
Yeah, I love it. The being proactive rather than just letting stuff happen around you.
Yeah.
So last question. If you from today could give yourself one piece of advice when you first started your coaching journey, what would it be?
Well, I'm still not sure because by this day, I don't know how could I beat my emotions faster to move from player to coach. I think it's this saying that time heals. I think this kind of thing. I think I would just say something to myself. Just be patient. You will have it. Like I think this is the only thing I would say. Just be more patient. You will get there. Outside of it, I have no idea what words could change my mind that I was suddenly, I'm not a player, I'm a coach now. What would change? I have no idea.
Well, Edward, thank you very much for coming on. I think it's fantastic. I love the way that you're approaching this transition and doing all this extra stuff, extra reading, all that kind of thing. And I think your success is well earned.
Thank you so much. I actually enjoyed so much. I wish there was more people like you doing interviews like this. If you ever want to have more chat, invite me again.
Great. I will do.